Hi everyone, it's Sister Ann. I'm reporting from Los Angeles, and I want to share my dedicated support to Mr. President Trump, our 45th president. Mr. President is a patriot, and so am I. A patriot is someone who supports their country and is prepared to defend it against its enemies. An example of a patriot would be the 13 colonies who rejected British rule during the American Revolutionary War and declared the U.S. of America an independent nation in July of 1776 when they rejected Britain's rule and the leadership of Britain wanting to put the colonists in communism. They had fled Britain to make a fresh start, to begin a life of freedom, of worship of Yahweh. They were believers, Puritans, pilgrims, peasants, middle class, poor, and they came over here and settled. And so when Britain started to persecute them all different types of ways, start put them in jail over here, overtax them at the Boston Tea Party, tax them for tea that they didn't order, and certain things like the coercive acts. The colonists separated from them immediately, and they never were with them in the beginning. They formed their own called Continental Congress. It was a meeting that they formed to collectively respond to the British Parliament, which was the British rule. The government was the British Parliament, and so the colonies were not part of that government. So I believe that that's exactly what we need to do now. Is that if you're a believer in Jesus Christ and you're for freedom and you're for life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, that we need to support Mr. Trump and initiate our form of a separate order or government. It is the right of the people to abolish the government when it is no longer for the people. We need a separation of powers in this country. Mr. President is opposite of our prior presidents in the last 50 years. See, Obama, who made no effort to resolve Middle Eastern peace, he encouraged Islam. He is Islamic. I mean, he was raised Islamic, and then he encouraged that on American soil. He had like a pie graph that he was using, and on all the pie he would have ways of destroying America. This is true. Obama, he trained with Zelensky. He's friends to George Soros. That's his good friend. And George Soros is a Satanist. So we have a lot going on here. They're for communism. They're for slave society in which all property is owned by the ruling party. And the ruling party in these days is the Democrat Party. Okay, so and they want population control. So they want the opposite of freedom. Mr. Trump, on the other hand, he wants tax cuts. The unemployment is the lowest it has ever been, even with the COVID. He's done an executive order for America's children to be safe. He's focused on prevention strategies that keep children safe, strengthening families so that children do not enter foster care unnecessarily, because we had a huge problem with DCFS taking children and not giving them back, not giving any sources for the families to get their kids back. So DCFS was removing children from good families. I've heard stories. I can tell you dozens of stories I've heard of this in the last few years. Trump also he stopped Obama and Hillary Clinton's trade with enemy Iran. He stopped the Iran deal, which Hillary Clinton and Obama was funding over $100 billion to the Iranian government, and which in turn they turned around and they gave the money to Hezbollah, and they bombed Syria. So now there's millions and millions, over 5 million children without parents because they wanted to destroy the foundation of the Middle East, because their whole agenda is population control, and they're ruled by their god, Lucifer. Satan. Okay, so Trump believes also in immigration, but he wants to restrict the child murderers and the drug lords from coming over on the border. So he just wants to restrict that. He wants to help those children that are in cages. But as we know, California Governor Gavin Newsom stands opposed to Trump. So, it's not Trump's fault that he tries to. We have border control over here in Southern California. Trump is trying to work with the border control, but if our congressman, if our senator, and if our governor stands against Trump, then it makes it very difficult for him. But I have good hope in these next few years that he'll do even more for the border. So he also wants to punish those who are doing loopholes. In companies, like when they're doing corporate inversion, tax inversion, he's cracking down on all types of corruption. It's like he's not letting one stone go not uncovered. He's for the middle class, and he makes it fair for the middle class. What's some other things? He is supporting the Ten Commandments. He follows God's eternal covenants to men and women. He supports the Bible and prayer in school, which is monumentary for a president, that he would stand up for that. And he does. He makes it known. He signs executive orders, and he supports Israel. He made Jerusalem the capital. He established international order that discourages dangerous domestic and world terrorism. He appointed 300 or more conservative Supreme Court justices to end the liberal strongholds in the government. He says no to globalist power, which is the democratic rule. And he says, yes to conservative values and to Protestant principles, which was what our country was founded on. He is not for a one world order and a population control agenda. He's made that clear. He promotes reformation and transformation in the government. He says no to Hollywood pedophiles, which are doing murder of the innocent. No to adrenochrome and to drizzle drip, something that they are doing now. They take little children, these Hollywood, they call them elites. I call them bottom feeders. They take them and they take these baby children all over to their houses all over the world, and they put them in the yards, and then they say they leave them there for 24 to 48 hours, and then they hunt them like Hunger Games, and they drink their blood for a high, and where their adrenaline will go up because they're so frightened, and that's called adrenochrome. And now they're doing something even if it can even get worse, it's called drizzle drip. Okay, so please pray. Also, Mr. Trump is a revivalist. He's for First Amendment, freedom of speech, which we are greatly losing in this country. We're no longer a Christian nation. We're a socialist country. And we need to wake up, because we could go easily into communism by Russia or China or both coming into our borders if Mr. Trump doesn't get the election. But God showed me that he's going to. That it's already been executed in heaven's court. So he will get presidency. Mr. Trump also says no to drugs. He has taken that war upon himself for domestic terrorism in the land, and for these criminals bringing over fentanyl and heroin and all kinds of destructive ways of killing our youth and our people. And he says no to abortion. He's defunded Planned Parenthood. He's working on 100% defunding them. He's getting much opposition. Please pray. And he says no to the Iran nuclear deal, no to communism, no to China's Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin's rule. And, he wants to turn back the country to Protestant Christian values. And I feel like it's good for him. I feel like being president has been wonderful for his growth. Remember, none of us have arrived. We are all in a spiritual growth. And even Paul said, the great apostle Paul, he said that it was a race. And he said, that's, Jesus told me specifically that slow and steady wins this race. So just be listening and praying tonight, and because what the power released in heaven will be released by the saints' prayers. Okay, and just offer up your persecutions up to God, and bring in the lost souls, and I just declare victory in Jesus' name.